And expansion rumors just keep flooding in one after another. We hear something different every single day. The biggest one that always has intrigued me is the whole ACC Grant of Rights thing. All these people, I think they got an agenda of some sort. They don't like this idea of expansion and maybe certain conferences going away, but it's just a matter of time. Even if the grant of rights stands to 2036, it's just a matter of time. And now I'm hearing rumblings that finally there may be a way out of this grant of rights thing that we've sort of touched on, but there's some other elements to this that could actually make this thing happen within the next maybe 3 to 4 years. Let's talk about it. The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Well, here we go again. Another episode of the OCF. That's right, the outlaw of college football. That's me, JPC. Also, check me out on Twitter at OCF Productions, at OCF Productions. Also, I'm on Facebook under Jesse Paul Clark if you want to holler at me on there. Now, class, getting right to it. We're going to talk about realignment and expansion once again because a few stories have broke, especially pertaining to Florida State. Florida State's president has came out and said that he didn't come out and he wasn't blatant about it, but he has said that Florida State is going to pursue avenues in order to make sure that Florida State stays competitive in the future. A lot of these Florida State people are sort of reaching now, I think, because they feel like that the game's passing them by somewhat. Their legacy that they had, Florida State was considered one of the traditional powers from the 90s on up into the 2010s when they last won their national championship with Jameis Winston and Jimbo Fisher. So Florida State is already pursuing avenues, and they're already hiring a legal team to explore getting out of this grant of rights thing. But the big thing that may make this whole thing break is what I've talked about before. People's like, well, you got to have 8 teams, and that's just not easy. That's just not going to happen. Well, of course, 8 teams leaving the ACC to join one conference is likely not going to happen. And it could, but likely not. You're right. But 4 at a time leaving. And all 8 at the same time agreeing upon, hey, we're all going to go our separate ways. And the rest of you, we got the 8 teams we need. I know it sucks for y'all, but y'all are just going to have to fend for yourself. Wake Forests of the world, maybe even Syracuse and whatnot, teams like that. Duke maybe even might have to fend for themselves and join a conference not maybe of their liking, but you just got to do what you got to do at this point. And the way the conference realignment and expansion shaking out, it's dog eat dog. And if 4 teams from the SEC leave, and the 4 teams that the SEC is wanting from the ACC, from what I've heard, is North Carolina, Florida State, Miami, and Clemson. Them are the 4 teams that come up the most often. And for the Big Ten, it overlaps a little bit. They want North Carolina as well. They also want Virginia. They also want, there's been rumors that they might even be considering Miami themselves in Florida State, as well as Duke. Duke is another team that the Big Ten's have considered. But there's another player that's jumped into all this that can make this a lot easier. The Big Ten decides they want to continue with their Western expansion. There's rumors that the Big 12 could come in and scoop up 4 teams to give them an out. So the Big 12 would probably come in and take the likes of NC State, Virginia Tech, probably Syracuse, maybe Louisville, Boston College maybe. There's numerous markets there. I mean, the Boston market, Syracuse, New York State market. I don't know how big Louisville's market is, but the Big 12 could easily come in and get those teams. And they could go 4-4-4. We could see the Big 12 come in and pick up the scraps that the Big 10 and the SEC leave behind. There's numerous options here. And there's also, forgot about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a team that would probably be on the Big 10 scope somewhat. Even though they already have Penn State in the state of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh is considered one of the leading research institutions. And we know that the Big 10 likes to put on this facade like they care about academics, so that it could appease and patronize the academia sector of those Big 10 presidents out there. It's just a lot of scenarios to think about, but the people that keep saying that this can't be done, that you're going to have to wait till 2036, you can't do that. Oh yeah, it can, and it will be done. I can tell you right now, even if the ACC stands pat, there's going to be some kind of renegotiation in this. There's got to be. And the thing is, what you don't realize in this whole grant of rights thing that people continue to fail to realize is ESPN, they're the ones that own the rights to this stuff. They own the rights to the ACC network, if I'm not mistaken. So the ESPN wants to come in and tear up the contract. They can at any time. And guess what? That whole, it's going to be so hard to get out of the grant of rights thing, that shit goes out the window. Because ESPN just tore it up and they're renegotiating. And that's the one thing that I think is going to happen. ESPN is going to renegotiate this thing, and they're going to try to make their products that they have bigger and better. And if they can acquire Tier 1 rights to the Big 12 football, they could take 4 teams from the ACC and 4 teams and give them to the SEC, and take 4 more teams from the ACC and give them to the Big 12. And then the Big 10 could come in and have the scraps, whatever's left over. So that's what I think is going to happen eventually. ESPN is going to come in. They're going to give the Big 12 a TV deal. They're going to go to the ACC and say, hey, we're going to tear up this grant of rights thing, and we're going to disperse 4 teams to the SEC and 4 to the Big 12 and make our products the strongest, or try to make them the strongest. If the Big 10 doesn't interject themselves, because they could do that. The Big 10 could come in here and try to break the party up and come in and take, 2 or 3 of those teams that the SEC wants. So many scenarios. But I just want to come in here and make it perfectly clear that these people that say the ACC grant of rights thing is ironclad, it's far from it. They was like, what's the loopholes? Well, I just told you the loopholes. There's numerous loopholes. From ESPN renegotiating and tearing up the contract, to the SEC and the Big 10, or possibly the Big 12, taking 4 and 4, and then the grant of rights goes away because 8 teams have officially left. And that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, check up underneath this video. There's a little heart, thanks button. Click on that. Throw a few dollars in the coffers. Get me out the YouTube teat. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.